Attention, Canadians. Feel disconnected from our current political system? Join the Powershift to Freedom movement by the Canadian People's Union and be part of a bold vision for Canada's future. It's time to shift the political power to its rightful owners, the Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples of Canada. Dive into our history, understand the need for change, and embark on the quest for true democracy. Are you concerned about our nation's commitment to human rights and self-governance? The Powershift to Freedom aligns with vital treaties and international laws, enabling us to claim our rightful place as collective head of state. We advocate replacing our partocracy system with a true democracy to ensure your voice counts more than party interests. When our national collective civil and political rights are respected, your influence on policies will be direct and impactful. Join us on this noble struggle to make every Canadian and Indigenous peoples a meaningful participant in our future. People 15 years old and over can sign the Convention of Consent and unite for our rights in the Constitution. Ready to be part of this transformative movement? Visit thecpu.ca for more details. Embrace the change and shape our future.
Well, welcome back, everybody. It's not a sunny Saturday morning, but it's sunny over here. And hopefully I'll be able to get that sunny side of me in my heart all the time. And I suggest that everybody does the same, because it doesn't have to be sunny outside to be sunny inside. Okay. So anyways, welcome again. I'm just going to say a little thing in French. On va revenir dans 11 heures ou en français s'il n'y a pas de retard avec celui-là ici. OK, fait qu'on va vous voir à ce temps-là. Si vous comprenez l'anglais, s'il vous plaît, restez. So anyways, thank you again for your patience. And it's pretty interesting how fast time is going. I mean, I sneeze and 15 days just went by, and it's like, okay, like, what the heck? You know, am I in another universe here? So anyways, it's like I said, it's really interesting to see how things are going, how time is flying by without even noticing. And but the one thing that's good is birds are going to be coming back. Spring has sprung, and hopefully we'll be able to move on from the horrific last 4 years. Mind you, we're still being, how can I say, threatened by our government and what they've produced. And what they've produced is a lot of disagreements, in regards to the woke. The woke need to realize that they're just being used. Everybody's being used against one another. And I really stress that we remind ourselves that we are, number one, human beings. And when you're looking at, what's happening with our kids' mentality and how it's being abused by the education system from the hands of our governments, then, it's time for the people to do an intervention. And this is what the CPU is. It's a political and legal intervention, in the sense that we want to make sure that our judges and our governments and lawyers, apply the rule of law, because the keepers of the rule of law are the justices and the lawyers. And if they're not doing their jobs, well, what happens to our rights? Well, our rights do not just live here in Canada. Our rights come from the international level that all countries agreed to after World War II. So, we've got a lot of things that we need to look at. First of all, what's a human being? As found in nature. There's a difference. There's a human being not found in nature, and then there's a human being found in nature. And it's against the international laws and even our law to manipulate the human genome. We're not supposed to touch the human genome. And the ones who really know that very well is when you have, a couple's trying to get pregnant and they can't, so they'll do the petri dish thing. And um, so the researchers there, who had to fight their way to be able to allow to finally win, to be able to help people um, conceive, which is kind of ironic because the first couple that did in Canada, David and his wife were friend. David was a friend of mine, and way back in Montreal. And it's funny how I've always my life kind of always connects here or somewhere, and at the time I don't realize it, but coming back to that, yeah, David and his wife were the couple, the first. I'm not going to say their last names, but they had beautiful twins, and she was older, a much older woman, and the doctors were giving her a hard time, in regards to her age, but she had a beautiful pregnancy, and so everything went well there. But at the same time, the researchers could not touch the human genome. And then all of a sudden, all these years, now we're strangled with transhumanism, and we're being forced things down our throats in a really roundabout way to be able to have inclusion. Okay, so what does inclusion really mean? Okay, you have to really know where it's all coming from. Now, when I came across the documents online on the government website in regards to transhumanism, well, they want to change even our brains. Where did that come from? Well, that came from, okay, Black Rocks and the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and the scientists and McGill University. Call me jaded now. I am jaded, but I would close down a lot of these places, hands down, hands down. Because what they're doing is an assault on the human found in nature. Okay, and there's laws against that. So the human found in nature, and this is what they did basically also with the injections, that it does affect the DNA. And if anything affects our DNA, changes our DNA, that's illegal. Researchers are supposed to only leave that to research and not bring this about under false pretenses of a pandemic, and then to force inject everybody. And our government's not without consent, full knowledgeable consent. So nothing was done. PCR tests, theft of DNA. Did they get everybody's consent? Informed consent? Do they know what was done with the rest of this afterwards? Well, pretty interesting how our Genome Canada and all of the genome lower all of the provincial genomes connected to Genome Canada is in bed with Fauci. Okay, so they're trying to push transhumanism on everybody through children, through vaccinations, false vaccinations, and then through children, saying that a child, a 6-year-old, if you tell your child that he's a boy or a girl, well, you're a horrific parent. That child doesn't know yet if it's male or female. Come on. There's something to be said for stupidity. But I want to show you something that, because I want to address this, okay? Because the human genome is not supposed to be touched. And the best thing that I could show you is a video clip that was taken from Congress in the United States. And this doctor says it very well. So any teachers who takes it upon themselves, or school board, we need to check these people out, because everything affects our lives. I mean, I've got 2 grandchildren, and I pity the school or the daycare or whoever is going to be taking care of them, to be teaching them something that they feel is their business to, when it's none of their business. Okay. I don't care what the government says. The law's the law. Okay. And no matter how many times our government changes the law, doesn't mean that law is legal, because they have to stay in line with the rule of law, not the rule by law. Okay. Because that's what they're doing. They're ruling us by law, not under the rule of law. So I'm not a lawyer. I keep practicing here my civil and political rights, my collective political and civil rights with everybody else. That was handed over to us in 1960. And then in 1966, called decolonization and the right to political self-determination collectively as a country. And we were never given that right. We were never given that right, people. Anything that happened prior to 1960 is wiped out clean. Any laws of or anything before that, hang on here, I've got something that bothers me. Okay, so we were never given that right. 1960, 1966 changed everything. What happened before does not matter. Everybody has to honor human rights. And this is what the countries all agreed to keep the peace. What are they doing now? They're creating another third world war. Well, we've already been in it for quite some time. It's just that in Canada, we're not having bombs in our heads, but people are walking around with bombs in their bodies. Okay. So, and then we're breathing in all kinds of things. We've got a government that is injecting that, in Ottawa, there's a place where they're injecting lettuce with vaccines. How many of you know this? This was all approved. They're sending us sun dimming, which in there is silica and all kinds of stuff that we're breathing in. And every time they send a balloon out there that goes poof and covers our skies in to protect us from the sun, people have a hard time breathing. I do. I mean, I just have to look outside to see why I'm having. I've got 2 coughing problems, and both coughs are totally different. Okay, so I can say, okay, oh, this is chemtrails, and then the other one. Well, if I say chemtrails, I'm wearing a tin hat. So let's reverse that. I will call it weather modification. So with weather modification, anybody can go and get a license for that and change our weather in Ontario if you're a farmer. Read up on that, people. Weather modification. So if you say chemtrail, you're nuts. If you say weather modification, it means the same thing. Same thing. Then you're okay. So between weather modification and the sun dimming, I have 2 different coughs. So just learn to listen to your body and the reactions you have there. So in regards to the lettuce in Ottawa, I'm unvaccinated and I will remain unvaccinated. Okay. Not because I have anything against vaccines, but I won't put anything in my body unless I know what it is. I want to know everything. Because prior to doing legal research, to research the law and the court cases and all of this, I was into pharmaceutical market research. And that's where I began suspecting everything. That 2008 was a rude awakening for me. So, anyways, having dealt, because we were a survey company, let's say, and we would I would interview doctors on different medications for HIV and stuff like that, and learn what the doctors, their protocols, what they were using. So I became interested in that, and then created a hospital project for proton therapy for dying kids who were being sent home to die, for their parents to watch them die because they needed more beds in the hospitals. And I was appalled. And the fact that the Canadian government would not allow these dying children to go and get treatments worldwide, or even just right down to the United States. And I looked up proton therapy at Loma Linda University Hospital in San Bernardino, California. So, I learned a lot. And I have no regrets. I learned about proton. I went and saw the machine. They took me down because we wanted one for Canada, and we were going to work. Um, I was going to work alongside with the United States hospital, well, the Loma Linda University proton therapy people in regards to research. And I was in love with this machine. I'm telling you, I was in love with this machine. Well, what are they using protons now for? Okay, they always turn something beautiful into hell, and that's our governments. So now they're using proton lasers to attack people, to burn places, all kinds of things. Okay. So, anyways, to make a long story short, proton therapy can eliminate prostate cancer for $41,000 at the time. This was in 2007. $41,000, which means 41 treatments at $1,000 US each. And then they give you 3 treatments a week, but you have to stay there till your 41 treatments are done. And so then if you're from Canada, you got to pay for your lodging and everything else. But you're only inside the proton machine for in the hospital for 10 minutes, because you're only in the proton machine 1 to 1 minute and a half. And it only, the laser goes in, it only affects the cancer cells. So they showed me the program itself. And because I understood web design and all this and how things were done, I was able to follow. And I'm guaranteed by the next day I could have been helping them, process people, because it wasn't that hard, to understand. So it's pretty basic, and it was just fantastic. Because I was also connected with Leslie Dean Price from Brown University in the States, and he was 85 years old at the time, and he's one of the scientists that developed the first self-fuel bus for the university. And the United States actually gave them $45 million to develop all this. And once they first designed, they designed their bus. This was a city bus, and it would have ran on self fuel. So they were really proud of this technology, and and this is where we're at today. It all started there, but the United States government took the patent because they paid for it. They owned the patent, and never released it. So Leslie Dean Price, 85 years old, wanted to come to Canada and work with me on Indigenous, thinking that they can help me build these hospitals on Indigenous territory, so that we'd be free from the government's trying to overtake life-saving technology that they wouldn't be able to say no to, or if they couldn't say no if it was on a native territory. So I was connected back at that time with Joe Norton from Ganawagi, who had given he was issuing me a nice chunk of land there for the proton therapy center. But anyways, long story short, we had gotten the funding, and we're waiting on funding, and then 2008 hit. So then I had to wait, because the ones who were financing the beginning of my projects were going to help me build nursing homes, infection controlled environment nursing homes, as well as the children's hospital, and then the in and out outpatient proton therapy clinic. So it was a big thing. So anyways, we have the information for our members if you want to look in our community page for members of the CPU. But if you look up Loma Linda and or just proton.com, and you'll if somebody's got cancer, please do everything possible to bring them there. Okay, for $41,000 plus expenses, or US. Here, my stepdad had gone through 6 major surgeries. It costs the government tons of money, and he could have been saved. He ended up dying because it turned into pancreatic cancer and died. So, we had to watch him die, because, and same thing with children, because our government would not allow going to take treatments elsewhere. And then this is how I started going down the rabbit hole of medical um, you know, how big medical, they're not trying to save people. Okay. The doctors, nurses, yes, but the industry itself is a moneymaker. So they'll keep you sick, you know? So it's unbelievable. I mean, some of them, their hearts are there, but some it's they're just doing their job and they don't care what they stick to what positions they place people into. But healthcare is big business. Okay, healthcare is big business. And that's why natural products are so important to learn about, and other places to be able to go and get cancer treatments and whatnot. And Loma Linda, I would have been the 9th in the world if this would have panned out. But unfortunately, in 2008, what happened is, to finish my story there, the investors had to back off because Bell Canada had lost the teachers' pension fund. So they couldn't take the building that the people who were going to fund my first nursing homes to be at, while we're getting the hospital launched as well, had to back off. So in the meantime, I figured, okay, well, we'll get this settled and I'll look for other funding in the meantime, whatever. But I started seeing that, they're not trying to heal people. They're trying to kill them. I mean, not technically there, but for me, it was, if you don't allow a child to go and get a life-saving measure anywhere on this planet, and you've got the money, and you would save a lot more money to send them somewhere else instead of wasting all of this time here in Canada and eventually have them die, it didn't add up. It just did not add up. Okay. So then I've been jaded ever since. So I figured, okay, well, let's scrap this for now. Let's try and change the laws. Let's try and change. And then I started seeing what was coming down the pike. We were going to end up with an end game of a World War III. And this has been going on. Hasn't stopped. It just took on different scenario, like different, I call it the chameleon, different colors, different shapes. But they're still on that trajectory. So I just said, okay, well, now I got to look at the laws, because by what I was seeing, I would have to have a bunch of scientists hired and to go through all the medication and to tell me, so that we could know exactly what's in all of the medication before giving it to the patients. So it was like, okay, I mean, this is nuts. This is totally nuts. And that was my first reality check. So I've been here 15 years doing research on law and all of this. And then only to find out that the rule of law is not being applied in Canada or anywhere under within the countries, especially under the Commonwealth realm, the 15 countries still embedded into the UK. Okay. And they're saying, oh, well, now we're partners with the UK. We're not under them. No, that's BS. Our constitution is still in the UK, still viable, for the simple reason that under the UK law, as long as the Canada Act 1982 still sits in the UK, in their legislature, it is still viable. It hasn't died yet. Okay. So why hasn't it not died? 1982, the people did not get a chance to ratify through referendum. 2 referendums were supposed to happen. One within 3 years of 1982 with the Indigenous nations. That never happened. It was all BS. They allowed AFN to make some of the decisions and to sit on the councils when AFN does not represent all of the Indigenous peoples across Canada. Okay, reality check. And most of the people at AFN are band council members who are paid and are an arm of the Canadian government. So thank goodness we've got some people who are now sitting as band council trying to change things from within. Will they succeed? It's going to be very hard to do. But at the same time, it is hopeful. So hopefully most of them will be able to wake up soon enough. But then continuing back to, we had from 1982 to 1997, the Canadian government to have a referendum with the Canadian citizens, because it is the Canadian citizens in the provinces by law, okay, international law, that are the ones who hold the right to our political rights. The way that the international works is that the country in itself is sovereign, but the provinces are not sovereign by themselves. So none of the provinces can leave Canada, and none of the provinces can dictate what it says, because a Canadian is a Canadian across Canada, together under the 1960 law of collective self-determination of all countries to decolonize, which was the purpose after World War II. We were never given that chance. So in 1982, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's dad, and all of the politicians, the premiers across Canada knew what was going on. Quebec tried to fight it a bit, but they wanted to leave the country, and you can't leave the country. And that's what the decisions that was made at the international level, so that countries would, people wouldn't lose their rights to their natural resources just because a group wanted to leave. So all the natural resources in Canada belong to the Canadian people and Indigenous nations. So they can't, there's a lot of things they can't do. And that's why Trudeau said, you can't leave the Federation. And actually in 1982, the province don't have their rights on their own. Okay, they only have rights if the people, if there's a referendum in that province, then that the province is supposed to be able to manage a certain amount of people, the people in the province, but they have to have referendums across the country. We've never had that. Even when Mulroney was there, he was the one stuck, trying to bring about these referendums, and they failed. But not once did he actually, and that's why, I will not cry over that man. Actually, I dance. Okay, when one of our prime ministers or anybody else that had everything to do with stealing our country and our rights from us dies, I have no pity. I have no compassion. And why? Because they're to blame. Okay. And it's like, okay, well, another one bites the dust. Yay. Sorry to say. I used to have more heart than that, but I've seen too much. And I'm at the point where I'm too jaded to have sympathy. I'll leave that to God. I don't need to give them sympathy once they pass on. It's like, okay, move on to the next thing. So anyways, in regards to that, Mulroney did never told the Canadian citizens that we had a right to a full national referendum in regards to accepting our constitution and making sure that we had rights. They always made sure that we had zero rights to take them to court other than on personal issues that can't be added on to the population as a whole. So the only right they gave us in our collective and civil political rights that we've had, they didn't give us the right to collective self-determination. They only gave us the right to vote for our next dictator. And that's what happened in 1982. That's what the CPU is about. That's about changing that, because by law, we have the right to rule over our country and to decide what kind of political system we want. So far, our political system is fine. But the difference is who rules, who has the chance to rule at the end of the day, the people or the government. And that's where the dictatorship changes. Freedom steps in and replaces a dictatorship. Because as long as the people don't have all of our rights, we will never have freedom. We will never have the chance to change the laws that they've created to protect themselves against us if they go rogue. And that's the position we're in today. There are no laws that we can use against them. Okay? Other than on a personal basis. So our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is on a personal basis. International law is on a collective basis. And that's why Canada tried to hide international law from the lawyers and not even teach it to them. And say, oh, well, in Canada, we don't recognize international law. Yeah, we do. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel and a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay. So if we can all stop and look at ourselves as human beings instead of this and that, I think we're going to go a lot farther, because human beings are all equals. Okay. So, and we have equality rights. Okay. And that's important, because a Canadian is a Canadian, and Indigenous persons from coast to coast to coast. Okay. In Canada. So, if we could all get on the same on the same track, on the right track here, we'd be able to do something. But everybody has to stop what they're doing and get educated a little bit. It's not that technical. Just takes a little bit of reading. Don't know a definition, look it up, understand it, ask questions. And at the CPU, we have, volume 1 that explains what the CPU is and all this to answer your questions. And then we have the crash course for those who, want to be able to explain it to others. So there's all kinds of tools for you to use. So we really don't have any excuses. But what needs to transpire is that none of the political parties ever have given us our right to self-determination. Now, I've seen Poilievre go really strong, right? Oh, I'm going to say no to the web. I'm going to say no, and no digital currency, no digital ID, you should say, and all of this stuff, right? Hey, sounds great. He'd almost have me fooled. If Pierre Poilievre is true to his word, and all of the conservatives, well, please, if you're a conservative, or Pierre, please go to the cpu.ca and sign your Citizens Convention of Consent, because you two, all of you, are equal shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada, equally with all Canadians, and then the Indigenous nations as well on the other side. So we've got two, the Indigenous nations and the Canadian citizens, that need to become equal partners in Canada in our Constitution, the way it's supposed to be since 1960. So Pierre Poilievre, as wonderful as you want people to think you are, let's see your true colors, please. I'll go to Ottawa, wherever you are. We can do a press conference, and you can sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. Okay. Then I will see that you are for the people, that you believe that, yes, the people should have a right of veto, okay, on issues before they become law, so that the Canadian citizens can understand, and the Indigenous nations, what is to be expected of them, okay, and of our governments. So please, I would love to bring you a Citizens Convention of Consent, and have you sign it in support of all Canadians. And then this can be done worldwide. So Pierre, if you want to be the savior, be a true savior. Sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. Help us place the people above government with veto power. It's the people that deserve the prerogative, okay, the veto prerogative, and to make decisions on things that affect us all, not a government. Okay, so if you agree with that and you're true to your word, you will officially demonstrate that you're signing the Citizens Convention of Consent. You will also stop all wars. You will not support any type of war, no matter what. You will stop this. You will help stop this war in Palestine against the people, the one in the Ukraine. All of these things need to stop. And we can place all of the peoples worldwide in charge of their governance with veto power, same as us. We all have that same legal right. So please. You want to show how true you are? Here's your chance. Because if you refuse to sign the Citizens Convention of Consent, you're nothing but a hypocrite. And that's reality. So let's bring the things back to the spotlight here, okay? So Pierre Polyev, you can contact me at 226-777-5580. That's our CPU business number. Please go to our website at thecpu.ca, and you can sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. But I would want to make sure to have proof of that, okay? And it would be well worth to put it on television, okay? Do a press conference, and have every other government worldwide do the same with the peoples, and allow the people to have a final say, and that will be true freedom for all of humanity. Okay, so doesn't matter whether he does it or not. His actions will tell everything. Because if we go into a war, it doesn't matter what he says right now. The United States wants an all-out war against Russia. And it's not just the United States. It's the realm. The Commonwealth realm wants an all-right war with Russia, along with the United States, NATO. Okay, under NATO. So NATO affects us, affects everybody. And it doesn't matter what anybody says right now. If we go into a war, none of that will matter. The decisions that are going to be taken once this happens, if this happens, a war happens, won't matter. Because we don't know how things are going to end up. We don't have a crystal ball, other than we know that they won't have time to start doing what he wants to do. And then because of the Commonwealth realm and the ones who want a new world order, the ones who back up, like Charles, who backs up the WEF. Well, Charles is who is our how do I call head of state? Charles. So I wanted to show you this because I spoke to you. The reason why I showed you all of those videos in regards to what was happening at the international level between Israel and Palestine, and Canada being charged along with the United States and the UK and Germany and now France. Everybody who's involved is going to end up getting charged over this genocide. And so there's a charge of genocide separate. And then there's the charge of crimes against humanity and apartheid. And Canada is involved because we've sent money and sent equipment, military equipment to Israel to keep doing this. So has the UK, so has the United States. And even though the United States and Canada and them are saying, oh, but look, we're sending money to Palestine. Oh, yeah. So pretend you're feeding them. A bunch of hypocrites. Pretend you're feeding them, you're helping them, you're trying to send food there while you're having them murdered. Because you're participating in that, whether you like it or not. That's aiding and abetting. Okay? So in Canada, what happened in 2001 that I spoke about, and the documents that were sent, any lawyer can find this online, is the fact that Canada, at the international level, all of the parliamentarians, the senators, the police, the military, anybody who's a superior above somebody else and somebody commits a crime, if you're a superior, you're going down for crimes against humanity and genocide. Okay? And it brings life imprisonment. Because there's no death penalty now. Only the United States has that because they don't want to listen and they want to do their own little thing in Texas and stuff like that. But worldwide, through the agreements of the UN, no death penalty. Everybody has the right to life, and we're not the ones to judge to murder somebody else. So they're supposed to have life imprisonment. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to do a little screen share here. I'm just going to make sure that I'm on the right page here. Command responsibility. There we are. Crimes Against Humanity, War Crimes Act. That's the one. Yeah. Okay. So what happened is we have a document that stated that Canada was removing the immunity from Parliament and the Crown, which means Charles, Her Majesty at the time, and now is Charles. So guess what? Charles could end up in jail with all this. So which I've noticed, and I'm sure that the lawyers at the international might be thinking the same thing. So I'm just going to go here. And again, where am I here? Whoops, I just lost you all. Okay, live stream here and share screen. Okay, crimes against humanity and war crimes. Am I on the right one here? Yep. Okay, there we go. So what happened is because Canada didn't want to charge anybody in Canada with crimes against humanity, what they would be charged with under superior command, because then Trudeau could be charged, everybody could be charged because of superior command. And because the superior command, what the Statutes of Rome determines that if a head of state commits genocide or crimes against humanity or war crimes, they can be charged and directly. So there's no immunity for them for those crimes. They have other immunities, but not for these crimes. So now Canada says, well, we don't want to charge that. We're going to just, for our politicians, like, whoever's in Parliament, we're going to call it something else. So now I know that you're seeing this here. So anyways, if you think that international law doesn't matter in Canada, yeah, it does. And everything that Canada and the UK have signed on to matters because it's automatically added or embedded into our constitutions. So this is Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act, which is a new law that Canada did to be able to appease the Statutes of Rome and the creation of the International Criminal Court of Justice at the time, which Canadians paid for it. Our own lawyers from Quebec and BC helped draft all of the documents. So Canada was really want to get kudos for that, making themselves look like they're not afraid of getting charged with this, and cocky. Okay, they were just cocky. Well, here's cocky hitting you back. Their actions are going to come back and slap them in the face. So this is Crimes Against Humanity, War Crimes Act, and it was brought in 2000. So an act respecting genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, and to implement the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, and to make consequential amendments to other acts. Her Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate and House of Commons of Canada, enacts as follows. Okay. So here it says, you've got your definitions. Conventional international law means any convention, treaty, or other international agreement that is in force and to which Canada is a party. This line here is the proof, okay? The proof that Canada is liable to our civil and the covenant of civil and political rights and the rights to collective self-determination of the peoples under these covenants, because Canada and the UK both signed on to them. So we have those rights, but they have made sure that we didn't see that here, and that the lawyers did not implement them here, or they didn't want to risk the chance that the lawyers would go ahead and do this and keep them all stupid. So now we come into this and we're going, okay, well, we've got these rights. What can we do about this? Let's create the Convention of Consent. The Canadian government doesn't need our permission. We just need 51% of the Canadian citizens to agree to this and to agree to respect Indigenous law and Indigenous rights and, everybody's human rights. So anyways, long story short, they create this, and then Mr. Krejci says, okay, well, we're going to remove immunity from this because at the international level, when they sign contracts between themselves, the heads of state don't have immunity. Those are what the countries are obliged to do by law, and that goes right down to provincial and municipal. So anything that's signed at the international level like this for countries is uh, automatically put into our laws. Okay. But this is in regards to our Bill of Rights. So don't get confused with the WHO and what the WHO can do. Okay, because the WHO has to respect our International Bill of Rights, which includes all of those rights. So come back here to the Rome Statute, means the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, adopted by the United Nations Diplomatic Conference of Plenipotentiaries on the establishment of an International Criminal Court on July 17, 1998. Okay, and then they had some corrections done and then finalized May 8, 2000, portions of which are set out in the schedule. So here, okay, now words and expressions, unless otherwise provided, words and expressions used in this act have the same meaning as in the criminal code. So here they give you, okay, so Her Majesty. So this act, which is equal, they're saying that it was equal and even better than the statutes of Rome. So they can enhance that law. And what Canada did is they enhanced the law to the fact that this act is binding on Her Majesty in right of Canada or a province. Okay. And then municipalities is included in the province because municipalities are a creature of the province. So, and because the people are handled by management, provincial management, that's where our sovereignty lies, is when all of the peoples across all the provinces can vote. And that's where the provinces garner the word of sovereignty. But it's the people that have the sovereignty, not the province itself. But right now, under colonialism, the province still has the control over the people. Okay. So it's just a technicality and can be argued. So here, offenses within Canada, genocide, etc., committed in Canada. Now, etc. Is pretty ambiguous, I would say. But anyways, now every person is guilty of an indictable offense who commits A, genocide, B, a crime against humanity, or a war crime. So right now, between the two charges at the international level is genocide and crimes against humanity, which we're going to have to fork out because our government is going to get charged with this. Okay. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we have to make sure to say that, hey, we don't support any of this. I personally, I don't. If we had a referendum on stopping the genocide tomorrow and, that we don't support our government in regards to what it does, which would mean a no confidence vote, I think our government would lose hands down. So now, there's also conspiracy, attempt, etc. So every person who conspires or attempts to commit is an accessory after the fact in relation to or counsels in relation to an offense referred to in subsection 1 is guilty of an indictable offense. Punishment: every person who commits an offense under section 1 or 1.1 shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life if an intentional killing forms the basis of the offense, and is liable to imprisonment for life in any other case. Okay. So it all depends on, to the extent, did they say, oh, we're going to go and commit a genocide in Palestine? No, they just have to say, well, Israel supports a whole cleaning up of Gaza, and we're going to help them get that. Okay, so because Israel wants it cleaned up, they need more military equipment. We'll send them more military equipment. We'll do whatever it takes to help them. And that's the bottom line, and that can get them in life imprisonment. So, and then we'll have to pay for reparations. So the definitions here again: crimes against humanity means murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, imprisonment, torture, sexual violence, persecution, or any other inhumane act. This is the clincher here. Any other inhumane act or omission. These two things. So what did they do during the supposed pandemic? And omission. They did not get everybody's They didn't tell. They didn't release all the information in regards to what they injected everybody with, and they are committing inhumane acts by allowing children to make vital decisions in regards to their bodies when they're not even old enough to be able to vote. Okay, which makes no sense, and transhumanism is inhumane because it changes your body. Okay, it changes the human body to no longer be as found in nature. And that's the clincher here. So that is committed against any civilian population or any identifiable group, and that at the time and in the place of its commission constitutes a crime against humanity according to customary international law or conventional international law, or by virtue of its being criminal according to the general principles of law recognized by the community of nations, whether or not it constitutes a contravention of the law enforced at the time and in the place of its commission. So this is the proof. Okay. So Canada created a law here saying that they're responsible, and we can actually take any of our court to be able to charge them with this, or anybody. These right now, it's going to be coming down from the international court, given once the International Court of Justice deliberates on both charges. So here you have the definitions of genocide. Okay, means an act or omission committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, an identifiable group of persons, as such that at the time and in the place of its commission constitutes genocide according to customary international law or conventional international law. So customary international law means that even if Canada has not made a law for it, it's legal. Canada cannot ignore customary international law. Neither can the provinces, and neither can the municipalities. So if the municipalities, the and the provinces or the federal government is in breach of customary international law, we're supposed to be able to bring them to court on this in any of our courts, but our judges are supposed to follow that law, and they're not. And that's the problem in Canada right now, is we have to bring our Justice Department, our judiciary, and the legal, the Bar Association, and the licensing for lawyers to bring back the true education in regards to our rights, and to make sure that nobody subverts the rule of law and changes it for the rule by law. And anything that they say is moot in Canada is BS. Okay, all of those justices that said, "Oh well, they could come and steal your car, but you got it back last week anyways, even though there's nothing left in it. We can't really charge the ones who stole your car because they brought it back, so it's moot." And then you got refunded anyways. So why charge them with a crime? So that's technically what has transpired over the last 3 years in regards to the insanity of, I would say, the last 4 years. Okay, so the justices really need to get back in tune with the rule of law and the true rules of law, not according to Canada, not according to the Supreme Court of Canada, and certainly not according to the Superior Court or the federal courts. They need to get back on track. And if this is done worldwide, we should be, and this is what the international lawyers are trying to do, but it must be done in Canada. It's like transhumanism. Okay, giving children medication for hormone medications to change their bodies is now illegal in the UK and in other countries. It should be illegal here. That should stop right now. It's the same thing with forced vaccination or coerced vaccination. They should not be allowed. By international law, we have the right to decide what we put in our bodies. My body, my choice. Okay. So again, this all comes into this. But this is exactly the law where breach of responsibility by a military, how Trudeau and everybody can get charged in Parliament and everywhere below that is under this here. Okay, breach of responsibility by military commander. And if you look this is for the military section, but there's a part for superiors, which means civilian superiors. And this is what the Statute of Rome had, that yes, civilian superiors, whether you're a prime minister, you're an MP, or whatever comes under your control, even a police officer, okay, can be charged with this, with crimes. So breach of responsibility by a superior. Okay, so now a superior commits an indictable offense if A, the superior fails to exercise control properly over a person under the effective authority and control, and as a result of the person commits an offense under Section 4 or. So this kind of replaces the crimes against humanity and what people refer to as the Nuremberg Code, which actually is not even that, but it's the Helsinki Accord. So when you're reading this, okay, so let's say I do something wrong. Okay, I'm licensed. I'm a doctor. I do something wrong. Well, all Trudeau can be charged for this because under superior, they don't have to prove how close the person was, just that they had a Trudeau should have known about medical things that are going on in Canada because of management things going all the way down the line. So rules and regulations, first of all. If somebody is committing a crime in Canada, doctors committing crimes, Trudeau should know. And then not a crime, but if they're not following the rules, or all of a sudden somebody says to do a certain things that is, let's say, a hospital tells the doctors, well, you guys need to do this. And because of their policies, well, the policy of the hospital might be totally different than what the government laws are or the policies of the government, and then they do something wrong. Well, it'll come back to the hospital, and then the hospital management can be charged with crimes against humanity in regards to, or crimes against the people who go there. And then what happens is, how can I explain this? Everybody who works under the doctor and so on, and it's like the misfeasance. If something is done wrong, well, they can be charged with misfeasance or malfeasance, neglect. Okay, the word I was looking for was neglect. So if somebody is neglecting their patients and something happens, well, it goes back to the superior, not just the doctor who neglected the patient. And I was trying to find a way of explaining it to you that you'd understand it. So again, all of these come out to play here. So in regards to crimes against humanity and crimes against genocide, they're really hard to prove. But at the same time, when it's done to a mass of people the way that the pandemic was, that could classify. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I've seen at the international level, that would be deemed classifiable. We'd have to ask a lawyer for sure on that one. But at the same time, the only ones who could really charge right now Canada with crimes against humanity is another country, because they're the ones signed on to this. Okay, so it's another country that can charge Canada with this. In regards to what they're doing to us, or another the department of the Canadian government, or the judicial could, the justices could, and yet none of them will. Okay, because they've all participated in destroying our country and our lives simultaneously, and they're all afraid of getting charged with probably a lot of things that could have them in jail forever. But this is like the catch-all clause in regards to breach of responsibility by superior. So again, so the superior knows that the person, I'm just going to reread that in case somebody just came in. Now, breach of responsibility by superior. A superior commits an indictable offense if the superior fails to exercise control properly over a person under their effective authority and control, And as a result, the person commits an offense under Section 4 or fails after the coming into force of this section, to exercise control properly over a person under their effective authority and control, and as a result, the person commits an offense under Section 6. Or B, the superior knows that the person is about to commit or is committing such an offense, or consciously disregards information that clearly indicates that such an offense is about to be committed or is being committed by the person. C, the offense relates to activities for which the superior has effective authority and control. And D, the superior subsequently fails to take, as soon as practicable, all necessary and reasonable measures within their power to prevent or repress the commission of the offense or the further commission of offenses under Section 4 or 6 or. So any of the laws that actually came out of all of this thing, it was the responsibility of the senators, of everybody in Parliament, to stop these laws, certain laws to be excuse me, or policies being created by the provincial governments, if they're not doing it right. They all have a responsibility as to what happens under management. So because Canada has such a huge management, they have no immunity under this. So any politician who thinks they have immunity right now, or anybody in public health who thinks they have immunity in regards to what, we can end up being charged by any other country under these things, even for, how can I say, releasing a virus worldwide that was created inside of Canada. Okay. 2000, from 2003. All of the monies that all the countries have lost could come back on our shoulders. Trudeau is sending us into a World War III, and that's a crime against humanity. So, what are we willing to do here to stop this insanity? Everybody can sign their Citizens Convention of Consent, and that's how we can stop this. And it's the only way that we can stop this is through the signing that Convention of Consent and getting at least 51% of the population. And, politicians like Pierre Poilievre, who wants to put his money where his mouth is, signs his Convention of Consent along with every other conservative, representative. So here again, conspiracy attempt. So every person who conspires or attempts to commit is in an accessory after the fact in relation to, or counsels in relation to, an offense referred to in subsection 1 or 2 is guilty of an indictable offense. So the reason why this could be come back on the Canadian government is because the Canadian government knew that they were not allowed to touch the human genome. Second of all, they knew that we needed to give full informed consent for everything that they remove out of our bodies. Okay. Your body, your choice again. And what are they doing with the DNA? What did they do with the DNA? Where's the proof? Right now, they've worked on the whole 3 years was about developing this huge DNA data bank to be able to use at the international level. And so what was the best way to get free DNA but to give you a PCR test? So now, and how, and they were able to splice it right away. And, because the PCR test is for splicing DNA and nothing more, nothing less. And certainly it can't even recognize a virus after 24 CTs, but 35 to 39 about 39 is perfect for DNA splicing, which Canada did under 35 to 45 CT cycles, which had nothing to do with finding a virus. So again, now definitions, then you go to this and offenses outside Canada. Well, this is the offenses outside of Canada that are being done in Palestine and anywhere else in the world that we can get charged for. Okay. So when you're looking at this is what Canada did. They removed the immunity, Okay, they agreed to remove all of the immunity from the government that the government had in regards to the Statute of Rome in order to move forward with the International Criminal Court of Justice and kind of show off and say, okay, well, under these crimes, there's no immunity. Well, there's never been really any immunity for any of the countries who actually signed the agreements. Even for countries who did sign the agreements, they could also be charged with this. So this is where you can see that in Canada, under Canadian law, we have this act, which is the Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act. And in there is embedded superior command. So superior command means anybody who is going against any superior in Canada that gives out an order or allows somebody else to, it's like letting public health determine the rules. Well, you better make sure that because you're the superior, that public health isn't doing something detrimental to the people, because that'll come back on you. And that's what this is about, as well as public health being charged as well. So it's a lot to take in. But at the same time, it's what the other countries are going to be banking on to bitch slap Canada and Canadians. And, for reparations and everything, we might end up losing all of our natural resources to huge debts. Am I scaring you? Am I hoping to scare you? Yeah. But the right to self-determination means our collective right to self-determination, that we end up retaking control of all of our natural resources, all of them. And the countries are not supposed to say boo about it, nor the corporations. And because our assets, our natural resources and everything else have been stolen from us for quite a long time. So I know I've gone on here way over time, but I want to make sure that you kind of understood this, where this is. So for anybody looking for it, I'm just going to release that here. Stop sharing. Okay, there we go. So if anybody, our members, it's in our, where it says, files for print. You can go and print it off there and read it. But the thing is what's really important is that we know what to expect. Is anything going to happen through this? Who knows? Will we actually get charged? It's still up in the air. But yes, Canada has been told that it will be charged with crimes against humanity. And genocide and apartheid. So we'll end up footing the bill at some point. How long will it take? We don't know. What's that going to do to us? And will they want to be able to go to war so everything gets washed out to try and get rid of those debts? Right now, we have a rogue government, and we don't know if they're going to throw us into a war. And even if everybody would vote for Poilievre tomorrow, what will it really change? We've heard governments after governments after governments give us lip service. Yay, I'm going to go and vote for him. Yeah. And then do nothing that they said that they would do. And throwing us into a war is a good excuse for them to say, well, we couldn't do anything about that. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Something to think about, people. So if you want proof that Poilievre is going to do all these things, he could do it now. He could do it now. Have those laws repealed. Why? How can he do it? He needs to set up. He'd be able to put a petition, an online petition, to destroy those laws. Okay? So don't let Pierre Poilievre give you lip service. Put him to the task. If you happen to see him before I do or whatever, please say, hey, can you draft a petition to that effect? An online petition that we'll all go and sign it on the Canadian government website. Okay? Instead of, talk is cheap, Pierre Poilievre, you can reach me at 226-777-5580. And let's have a chat. You want people to vote for you? I have no trust in conservatives. Never will until I'm proven wrong. And now's the time to put your money where your mouth is for Canadian citizens. Sign your Citizens Convention of Consent and make a whole bunch of petitions in regards to different aspects that you say you're going to remove. You're going to stop the WEF, have an investigation done. You can file. Have a petition, a government petition on the government website in regards to the WEF and whoever's participating. You have all that access and you're not using it, but you're using the right words to convince citizens to vote for you. Well, take action now. You don't need to wait till an election. What's holding you up? Nada. Nothing. So let's chat. So anyways, I'm going to leave you with this. I got to go to the French section, do our little French video. Je vais revenir en français là, à 11h30. Je sais que je n'ai pas donné d'heure avant. Mais c'est vraiment intéressant là, de voir qu'est-ce qui se passe. Puis surtout avec l'affaire de Poliev. Fait que je vous reviens avec ça. Alors, thank you everybody for listening. And hey, yeah, we can do something. But if Pierre Poilievre wants to have the votes, let's make him work now, not later. Bye-bye. And stay tuned to the Canadian People's Union. Go to thepowershift.ca, sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. Get everybody you can to sign it. Everything we've ever said was proven in international court. Okay? Everything we've ever said. We're on the right path. Most are not. It's time for everybody to get on the right path because a lot of time is wasted. And we should not have to deal with the woke. We should not have to deal with transhumanism. We shouldn't have to deal with any of that. And people need to wake up to the fact that they're being used. If you're a trans person, you are being used. Think twice. Okay, please think twice. Go to the Canadian website and see about that. But you're being used to destroy humanity, the human as we know it in nature. And there's an international law against that. But think about what you do. And that's why we should never speak to children about this stuff, because the truth will come out that trans people are being used to destroy humanity. Okay? That's heavy duty, but it's a reality. Do not do anything to change your humanity. Okay? At least your genome. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll see you again. I know I was almost a week there without coming back to you, but we're still waiting on to hear about Julian Assange, as well as the declarations from the International Court of Justice and seeing what they're doing and what's going to pan out with the lawsuits against Canada and the possible war in 2025. That we might be thrown into. So it won't really matter what Poilievre says or anybody, what situation we're going to be then. We have no clue. Okay. So let's stop the wars, sign your Convention of Consent, put Poilievre to task, make him work, put his money where his mouth is, and let's get this on the road. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, I forgot before we go. Here's another message. I almost left too fast. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with another final message for those who don't know what we're about. And there we go. It's okay. And there.
Dive into 2024 with the CPU's dynamic campaign, set to energize Quebec and Ontario by reaching 75,000 homes with our empowering message. Every contribution you make is pivotal, driving this ambitious initiative forward and ensuring our information lands directly in communities via Canada Post. We extend special thanks to our dedicated CPU members, whose grassroots efforts amplify our reach. This campaign is your gateway to being part of a significant movement for change. Whether you choose to donate or volunteer, your participation is key to our success. Join us in making 2024 a victorious year for collective freedom and community action with the CPU.